All right, so we've got a ton of reviews and articles all about the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And it looks like you're really interested in, how it handles gaming.
Yeah.
So today we're going to do a deep dive and try to answer the big question.
Okay.
Is this actually a real gaming phone, or is it just like, clever marketing hype?
Right.
We've got comparisons to consoles and deep dives on that whole 120 FPS thing, and even some reviews that focus on specific games.
Yeah, it's interesting because, Apple isn't actually calling it a gaming phone.
Right.
But they're definitely, taking steps in that direction.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're kind of testing the waters.
Yeah.
But this phone is so powerful, everyone's wondering, how serious they are about gaming.
Right.
One thing that really stood out to me is that almost every single reviewer mentioned the size difference.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
Going from, an iPhone 12 to this thing.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge jump.
It's a serious upgrade.
Yeah.
One reviewer even said that it messed with their gaming at first.
Really?
Imagine trying to play, Honor of Kings.
Okay.
Lying down, all relax. But your phone feels like a tablet.
Yeah.
It's like suddenly gravity's working against you.
That's a good point.
It shows how even with mobile gaming, you have to think about ergonomics.
Exactly.
Which is something we usually think about with, controllers.
Yeah, definitely.
But of course, with that bigger size, you also get something else.
Oh, you mean that amazing screen?
Exactly.
Yeah, the reviewers rave about how much of a difference that extra screen space makes.
Yeah.
Especially in games that are really fast-paced.
Yeah.
And it's not even just about comfort. It sounds like it can give you, a real competitive advantage.
Yeah, it's not just bigger. It's way better.
Oh, for sure.
One reviewer was going on and on about the detail in Honor of Kings. They said the character's wings looked so intricate and detailed because of that OLED display and the high pixel resolution.
That's amazing.
They said it was like looking at details you'd usually only see on really fancy TV.
Really?
So just in case anyone isn't familiar with OLED, it stands for Organic Light Emitting Diode.
Right.
And it basically means that each pixel lights up on its own.
Yeah.
So you get incredible contrast in colors.
Yeah.
Which is, perfect for gaming.
And it's not just about those little visual details.
Yeah.
That level of detail can actually change how you play the game.
Oh, interesting. How so?
If you can see tiny details in a character or in the environment, that could give you an edge, especially in games where you're competing against other players.
So we've established that this phone is big and beautiful.
Yeah.
But can it actually handle the really demanding games?
Right.
You play actual AAA games on this thing.
That's the question.
The reviewers tested it out with games like Assassin's Creed Mirage and Resident Evil 4 and even Resident Evil 7.
Wow.
I'm curious about what you thought of those reviews.
Well, it seems like Apple is getting closer and closer to bridging that gap between mobile gaming and console gaming.
Okay.
The A17 Pro chip is super powerful.
Yeah.
And reviewers were really impressed with its ray tracing capabilities.
I've heard a lot about that.
Basically, what ray tracing does is it simulates how light behaves in the real world.
Okay.
So you get these super realistic lighting effects and shadows.
Wow.
You could really see this in Resident Evil 7.
Yeah.
Where those immersive graphics actually made the game scarier.
Yeah, that's interesting because another reviewer said the same thing about Resident Evil 7.
Really?
They were practically hiding behind a pillow because the graphics were so good.
Wow.
They said it made the game way more terrifying.
That's wild.
But they did mention some compromises.
Oh,
Like in some of those demanding games, they noticed some slight pixelation.
Okay.
Or the frame rate dropped sometimes.
I mean, that's kind of expected, right?
Yeah.
We are still talking about a mobile device. Sure. So optimization is really important.
Yeah.
Developers have to find that balance.
Right.
Between making the game look amazing and making sure it runs smoothly.
Absolutely. And speaking of running smoothly, let's talk about that 120 FPS promise.
Okay.
Oh, for anyone who doesn't know, FPS stands for frames per second.
Right.
And a higher FPS means smoother, more responsive gameplay.
Exactly.
So is this iPhone 16 Pro Max really a 120 FPS dream machine?
Well, the reviews are kind of mixed on that.
Okay.
Some games like Genshin Impact, which is a really graphically intense open-world game, they experience something called thermal throttling.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. What is that exactly?
So basically, the phone heats up
Okay.
because it's working so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And to prevent any damage,
Yeah.
it automatically scales back the performance.
So it slows itself down.
Yeah, and that causes the frame rate to drop back down to 60 FPS.
Oh, so it's like the phone saying, whoa there, cowboy, let's cool down a bit.
Yeah, basically.
It's not all bad news, right?
No. Definitely not.
What about other games?
So reviewers found that games like Thumper and Alto's Odyssey, which aren't as demanding on the hardware, they ran at a super smooth 120 FPS without any issues.
Wow. So it sounds like the experience really depends on the game.
Yeah, it seems that way. It looks like the main takeaway here is that, the 120 FPS capability is really impressive, but it's not like you're going to get it in every game.
Right.
You'll get the best results with games that are designed to take advantage of that high frame rate.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's all about finding that sweet spot between, max performance and not draining the battery too fast.
Right.
Speaking of battery drain, how does the battery actually hold up during these, gaming marathons?
So the reviewers noticed a pretty big difference between, casual use and playing those big AAA games.
Yeah, I can imagine.
If you're just doing normal phone stuff, like call social media, that kind of thing, the battery easily lasted for days.
Yep. Wow.
But if you start playing something like Assassin's Creed, you're only going to get 4 to 5 hours of playtime before you need to recharge.
Yeah. So not really ideal for a long flight or anything.
Right.
But it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's on par, or even better than some dedicated handheld gaming console.
Exactly. It's all about perspective.
Right.
Plus, don't forget, this is still a top-of-the-line iPhone.
Yeah.
You're not sacrificing all those everyday features just for gaming.
Right. You're getting, the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Which brings us to Apple Arcade.
Yeah.
A lot of the reviewers pointed to this as, a major selling point for using the iPhone as a gaming device.
And for good reason.
Right?
Apple Arcade is a pretty awesome subscription service.
Yeah.
It's got this huge library of high-quality games.
Yeah.
And there's no ads or in-app purchases to, slow you down or annoy you.
Right. It's like having an all-you-can-eat buffet of premium mobile games.
That's a great way to put it.
And the variety is pretty amazing.
Right, yeah.
You've got puzzle games, platformers, those atmospheric adventure games, quirky indie titles. There's really something for everyone.
One reviewer even said that they discovered a bunch of new favorite games.
Wow.
Through Apple Arcade.
Really?
Games they wouldn't have found otherwise.
That's cool.
It's that curated aspect that really sets Apple Arcade apart.
Yeah.
It's not just some random collection of games.
Right.
It's carefully selected.
Yeah.
With a focus on quality and originality.
And it sounds like the iPhone 16 Pro Max runs those arcade games flawlessly.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But beyond those Apple-exclusive titles, there's another pretty interesting option for gamers on this phone.
Well, what's that?
Emulators.
Oh, yeah.
So for those who might not know, an emulator basically lets you play games from older consoles on a newer device.
So it's like a time machine for video games right there in your pocket.
Exactly. Think classic Nintendo, Sega Genesis, even PlayStation games.
Wow.
All playable on your iPhone.
That's awesome.
And from what I've read,
the
iPhone 16 Pro Max is a beast when it comes to emulation.
Really?
That A17 Pro chip is no joke.
Yeah.
Reviewers were getting smooth gameplay and impressive accuracy, even with emulators that are known for being pretty demanding.
And it's not just about raw power either.
Yeah.
You have that big, beautiful screen.
Yeah.
And the phone itself is super responsive. Imagine playing Super Mario World on this thing.
Wow.
It would be a whole new experience.
Yeah, totally. For someone like me who grew up with those consoles, it's almost like you're tapping into this nostalgia. Well, being able to replay all those childhood favorites, but with the convenience of a modern smartphone.
Yeah.
That's pretty special.
And for gamers who are maybe a bit younger.
Right.
And didn't get to experience those older consoles.
Yeah.
It's a chance to discover some real gems.
Yeah, for sure.
Those classic games still hold up amazingly well. There's a reason they're considered classic.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got this phone that can handle the latest AAA games.
Yeah.
It's got a subscription service packed with exclusive games.
Right.
And it can even emulate classic consoles.
It's a pretty versatile device.
Yeah, it's a lot of gaming power in one device.
For sure.
But let's be real.
Yeah.
It can't be all perfect, right?
There are always trade-offs.
What are some of the drawbacks we need to think about?
Well, one thing that reviewers kept bringing up was the whole issue of touchscreen controls.
Oh, yeah. Right.
They've gotten a lot better, but for certain types of games, like action games that are super fast-paced, or like fighting games that are really complex, they can still be kind of finicky.
Yeah, I can imagine trying to pull off a special move in Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Using those virtual buttons could get really frustrating.
Luckily, the iPhone 16 Pro Max does support Bluetooth controllers.
Oh, that's good.
Which can make the gaming experience way better.
Yeah.
But of course, that's another expense.
Right.
And not everyone wants to carry around a controller with their phone.
Yeah, true. It's like choosing between convenience and having that like tactile feedback and precision you get with a real controller.
And then there's the whole issue of price.
Oh, yeah.
This is definitely a premium phone, and that price tag reflects all those high-end features.
Right. You're paying for the Apple experience.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it's important to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
This isn't just a gaming device.
Right.
It's a top-tier smartphone that's great at a lot of things.
So it really comes down to individual priorities and budget.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong answer.
You know, it's interesting to me how Apple's going about this.
Yeah.
They're not just making a phone with, like, great specs.
Right.
They're building a whole ecosystem around it.
Yeah, it's that whole walled garden thing they're famous for.
Exactly.
But, like, applied to gaming.
Yeah. It's a pretty smart strategy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because if they're the ones who control the hardware, the software, the services, they can make sure that the whole experience is really smooth and polished.
Right.
And let's face it, that's been a problem in the Android gaming world.
Oh, yeah. Definitely fragmentation just leads to inconsistency.
Exactly.
With Apple, you get that tight integration, but it does make you wonder about a few things.
Yeah, like what happens to competition
Exactly.
if Apple starts pushing their own controller?
Yeah.
Maybe their own cloud gaming service down the line.
Right.
What happens to all the third-party developers?
Yeah, does their walled garden become a little too walled off?
Exactly.
It's something to keep an eye on, for sure.
Definitely.
It'll be interesting to see how they balance, like, fostering a developer community.
Right.
While still keeping that control that they love so much.
Okay, so to wrap things up here, let's boil this all down for our listener.
Okay.
What are the main takeaways about using the iPhone 16 Pro Max for gaming?
Well, first off, manage those expectations. This is a really fantastic phone.
Yeah.
But it's not going to magically replace your console.
Right.
You're going to run into some limits, especially with those really demanding games.
So thermal throttling, battery drain?
Yeah. Those are things you need to think about.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a serious gamer who wants the absolute best performance.
Yeah. But there's a big but here.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's super convenient to have that level of gaming power right there in your pocket. And when you combine that with Apple Arcade and the whole emulation scene, it becomes a pretty tempting option.
Definitely.
Especially for someone who also wants that, premium phone experience.
Yeah.
It's not a cheap device, but you are getting a lot for your money.
And one last thought to leave you with.
Okay.
Remember all those camera improvements the reviewers mentioned?
Oh, yeah, right.
Low light photos, portrait mode, all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to get caught up in the gaming side of things.
Yeah.
But this phone is a multi-tool.
It's not a one-trick pony. So if you're looking for a new phone and gaming is important to you, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is definitely worth considering.
For sure.
Just be aware of those trade-offs.
Right.
Especially if you're like a hardcore gamer who needs the absolute top performance.
It's all about choosing the right tool for the job.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, this could be the perfect fit.
It's been a really fascinating dive.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sure our listeners have a lot to think about. Until next time, happy gaming.